Okay, so we are live now. And hello everyone. Let me. Okay. Hello everyone. Welcome to Meshery development call. This is that call where we discuss all the different project related updates about Meshery, which is a CNCF project. Today is November 29th, and I'm glad like you all are joining today. Okay, so that's so this is a meeting where we will be discussing different things related to Meshery project. Meshery is a CNCF project which helps you manage your cloud native infrastructure across multiple Kubernetes cluster. And so we have a first of all, there are a couple of housekeeping items. One is that if you're joining live in the call, then I'll share the meeting minutes in the chat, which you can use to add your names in the attendees list. And let's ensure that we give our newcomers opportunity to introduce themselves. Um, I think everybody is an old timer, so we can start with our first item. That is, we have okay. So there's a new announcement that is Meshery, which Meshery GitHub repo just reached 4,000 stars on GitHub. So first of all, this is a great way of ensuring that people who use Meshery are actually liking the project. So this is a great milestone. And secondly, it denotes that people like the project and they are using it. And so that's one thing. Anybody would like to add on anything to this?
Yes, I want to add this. Oh yeah. So like it was not long ago, on the development meeting only we were discussing that how Messenger is the 10th fastest growing CNCF projects, and so this is really great and great achievement for all of us. And so if anybody wants to be a part of this journey, so there are like endless number of things that you can do in the community. It can be starting the repository, the link is right there, or publishing a design, or writing a blog content, or you can pick any issues in GitHub and start working on that. So a big congratulations to all of us who are like in the community and putting efforts.
And there's new feature. I think we'll discuss that later on. It's a new feature added by Arvid in which we can visualize annotation in Canvas. So we'll get to it. Arvid, would you like to discuss now or later on? Sorry, my mic was closed. I will discuss it along with my item.
Good. So yeah, so Pranav is having to do a lot of things. So Abid, I don't think he heard that you're going to postpone and move your update or hold on to your update. So
Actually, I can share. I was just waiting for the server.
oh,
So,
I see.
Yeah. So this is the latest update in the designer for MeshMap, which is an extension for Meshery. So we have this new feature. Like on previous week, Pranav demoed his new policy for mesh selectors grouping, and this is one implementation of it on UI. We can have other implementations on other UIs, but this one is for the designer UI. So what it does is it groups together the matching selectors. Here we are grouping together on the same labels and annotations, and we can disable or enable which annotations we want to see, like this bubble set icon, and we can just show which groupings we want. This will ensure like in Kubernetes when we have our annotations and like labels applied to components, we can then easily visualize and group the components together when we like import a new manifest or we create our own design and label items like
and put annotation. So it's just easy here if I put a label here like environment dev, and so it will group it together. And if I put the same label on any other component, these two will be now grouped together, and these can be turned off or enabled as we wish to design.
This looks good. Can we change the color of these, or by default, currently we cannot?
Yeah, actually, like those enhancements are on the list, like enabling granular control on changing the colors, at least for the different types of groupings.
So right now, the yellow one versus the blue one, that's a matching label set versus a matching annotation.
Yeah, the blue ones are the matching annotations and yellow ones are the matching labels.
Okay. Do we know, does anyone on the call know how often annotations are used as like a mechanism for grouping? Or is that a point of research that anyone might like to take on? It would be really helpful to know. I think it's evident to some of us that to those that spend time around Kubernetes, that people do group resources based on labels, matching labels. And so I think that much is a well-established convention. But the annotations are, I mean, they're both key value pairs. Both labels are key value pairs and annotations are key value pairs. What's the difference? How are they used? Like under the covers, I don't know that there is any implementation difference. There might be with annotations, just allowing them to be slightly larger, maybe in terms of storage. But other than that, they're pretty much the same thing. You may, looks like you can do selectors on both. So I don't know. That's what I'm asking is like, are they equally as capable in Kubernetes? And is it just convention that's used for labels to select, to group things, and annotations to persist any number of other informational details? If that's the case, I guess I wonder if the ability to do grouping based on annotations is what people expect. It doesn't necessarily hurt to have that ability, but in terms of highlighting it as a prominent, relationship, I wonder. Yeah, that'd be great, Unadi. That'd be great. The question is, or the statement, and then the question is within Kubernetes, when you want to represent an application, that application might be comprised of a handful of different resources, maybe a service, a deployment, some pods, maybe an ingress controller, like a variety of things. And usually within a cluster, you have lots and lots of those things floating around in different namespaces. And like one of the ways to categorize them and like identify them as a group is through selectors and selecting against labels that match. And that's a common convention for how people identify an app, like the boundaries of what an application might be. And the question is, well, is that the same for annotations? They are used slightly differently, but I guess the real question is, what justification can we provide that says that it makes sense to have a visual grouping like this based on annotation? It may make sense to be able to search the design for particular details that might be buried within an annotation, and then to annotate or highlight, just like within Visualizer, you're able to search for a resource that matches a particular name, and Visualizer will display or hide your search results. I mean, it'll show your search results. And so, yeah, and so maybe perhaps we should have a search over elements, resources within a design. And Abid, it sounds like you've placed Mesh Map, the designer and visualizer modes, on a path to overlapping much more than they do today. So I guess we could imagine something like that. Search might become a common feature or a common capability. So, okay.
Visualizer is like agnostic of what we do in visualizer. So I think that can easily be a common functionality between the modes.
And I was just thinking, like, do we also show the key value for which this group relates to? Because currently I think that is missing. If someone wants to know what
Yeah,
this group.
actually we don't do that, right? And because like I was thinking to do like the key and value, show it as a label, but bubble sets were not natively like allowing to do that. So we might need to trick around something and have that ability. Maybe we can also toggle that from here, like show labels or not. But that would be a good functionality, because then users can know which label they belong to, like it's actually the group.
Other comments, questions, thoughts? As you drag around one of the elements, one of the nodes that's within a group, there's a particular animated behavior. All right, nice.
And there's this cartoonish behavior, and it just keeps them grouped together.
Very good. Question: a lot of the relationships that have been defined to date are represented by or backed by a component. And I'm not sure if we have examples of those in this design, but those components are independently configurable. And so I wonder if that's the case with this relationship, this match relationship.
Yeah, actually right now the only way to have this marriage relation is like when we dynamically infer it from the design. There is no separate bubble set component that we can drag or create to have a bubble set. Being the fact like this is not actually a native cytoscape element, this is a separate layer that creates the bubble sets. So like this not actually native to cytoscape, but we can say like that should not completely stop us from having a bubble set. I think we can still have a separate bubble set component and have a separate behavior for it and do things with it.
Okay. Yeah, that might be advantageous. Yeah, if it might have been ideal that the bubble set was really just a custom node group, because that would have been a little more native to the framework. So just to explore that real quick and then move on. If this bubble set, if this match group were independently configurable, that would mean that as a user, you'd be able to click on the group. You'd be able to edit its properties. So that might include things like, custom color. But what else would it include? It would include, well, a show back, a display of why these two things are grouped, because they match this. It might be nice, and I assume that this is supported, is that if a particular resource has like 4 labels, 2 of them match over here and 2 match over there, and that you'd end up with overlapping match groups, not necessarily, you'd end up with a common set, a union between some, and
Yeah.
that's
actually like
now,
if we allow them to be custom components, we can then also have like the configuration that we have currently for other components, like the colors and other editing features. We can then have that also for bubble set. One thing that I was thinking, like we can have it as a relation, like we will drag a bubble set and it would be configured if as a label, like sibling relationship on labels. So we'll configure the label on that bubble set, and to apply the same label to other components, we'll just kind of drag it into the bubble set. And so every component drag it inside will have the same label, and that will be kind of accompanying this behavior that we have dynamically.
Anybody else have feedback, questions? The relationship is evaluated each and every time that a component is updated, or?
Yeah, like the policies in general are evaluated whenever changes are done on the canvas. And we intercept this one to render the bubble sets.
Okay, so I think thank you, Abid, Lee, and others
Thanks.
for the feedback. Moving on. Next item is from Zaki. Okay, I think we are missing Zaki today. So next is Ritik and Sudhanshu on notification center preferences. Ritik, would you like to take over, or Sudhanshu?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'll share my screen. Yeah. Okay. So currently, like we don't have a feature to allow users to set their preference notification preferences and currently like the users will be when they sign in or they do different kind of activity inside the Meshery cloud or a mesh map, they get different kinds of emails. So like currently we don't have a feature to allow users to manage these notifications. So what we are working on, so I am working on the mockup for designing how it will look like the notification center so that users can manage their all the preferences. So inside the layer 5 cloud, so yeah, this is how it would look like. This is first one is like is the mockup for the model that we can use, and this one is suggested by Sudhanshu, like we can use the same element component from the Meshery that we have for the connection and meshing switcher. So like we can reuse this component inside the cloud and have the same switcher inside our profile, so that if user wants to see the pro account details, user can see directly from here. And if wants to see the notification, user can see the switch to the notification preferences tab to see all the preferences. Reason why we are doing is because why we are not doing another option can be of a sidebar, but why we are not using that, because we have only two tabs, so there will be a lot of white spaces. So instead of using that, like we are going with this type of a switcher. And also for the why we are not going with the new tab, because else user will have to go directly here and then switch to the a new tab. So instead what we are doing is just having we are planning to use the same switcher here, so user can like this, you can directly switch between these two things. So yeah.
The model that you make for the preferences, when this will open and where it will use on this one?
Yeah, actually what we were thinking to add a button here, but but it will not be clearly visible to the users. So like other option is, so now we are going with this switcher, so it will be easily noticeable by the user. So yeah.
Also, the thing is like in view of future references that there could be more nesting of notification preferences. So like having a modal could also like not like would be enough space to show all the things. So, and having a separate page for it is also like a lot of thing, like a whole new page for that. So it could be an idea to like have a switcher for that, because under profile you are managing two things: your account and your account's preferences, profiles preferences. So in that case, we were having like this switcher could also be a good good suggestion for that. If someone has any feedback or questions.
One thing like regarding the implementation, would it also contain like control over which events we receive in notification center, like which notifications, or is, I think that would be also part of it.
I think this is for emails specifically, not for Meshery related events.
Yeah, the email that we send. Like,
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it's not for notifications in Meshery also.
I think initially it is for emails, because initially it would be emails, but like in future we are like because we are not sending any emails related to any workspace things. So like we also in like need for that also, that any changes in under workspaces, any activities. But initially as it would be for like subscription things.
Is this for the emails that we are sending through layer 5, like as in the notifications or the people who are getting it?
yeah, like it's just for the emails that we send from a layer 5 cloud. And not just from the layer 5, yeah, for the Meshery and other stuff. So all the emails that we send, so user can directly manage from here.
I think but like in future we might reuse the same page for like other notifications other than emails, like if I push notifications or any kind of.
Mhm.
Also, if it is related to the emails, there is one like the text that you written that you will still receive messages related to your account. The word messages is not clear, like which message you are talking about inside the mesh map or inside the notification center. It should be clear, like you will not receive the email related to that. I mean, it is much more clear that user will get feedback. Yeah, it's more related to email.
Yeah, okay.
Then like initially we could have that email thing. I think it will receive the like from the preferences API, I guess, Pranav, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, we would have to create a new preference for all of these because currently we don't track any of these for user preference. Any questions? Anybody? Comments? Next is an item from Lee about roadmap planning. Lee, would you like to discuss or should we?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. So we're so we've long been on the cusp of the release of 0.7. It's way too long. It's way overdue. And for a variety of reasons, we just haven't announced it. And we really need to. There's so much. It's like, actually at this point, part of the reason we haven't announced is because if you really try to do it justice and discuss what's included, it's like a heap load of things to describe all that has changed since 0.6 to 0.7. So anyway, that's a really good thing. But yep. So we're at the end of it. We need to release it. There's been a few of you in the community who've drafted what an announcement might look like. If you're interested in those, please go find them in the community drive. There's at least two different 0.7 release announcement drafts. They're unfinished, but they can certainly use help. Each of the features within the release can also use help just in terms of either in terms of documentation of the functionality or in terms of like a feature, like a blog post, like a feature blog post that just takes a particular feature and describes it. It doesn't have to be super long, but it helps introduce the concept and then redirects people to the docs if that's the anyway. So on the heels of this upcoming release, we would then hopefully be marching on the .8 release. There is an open pull request, I think, that perhaps suggests some changes to the prior .8 plan. The .8 plan has been there, and the .9 plan, and then the 1.0 plan. They've all been there for, well, a really long time. And largely, we've been on track. If you imagine, like, it's been a year and something since last we really discussed it, and last we really made forward-looking plans like this around milestone boundaries of releases, and we've held largely accurate, I think. So there's this super brief version of it out here under roadmap.md. It's broken down into sort of by component, or at least historically it has been by component. And by that, I mean, here's a section for the CLI, a section for, I think, just maybe the server and the UI. We could certainly break that out if it's helpful. So often, yeah, if the CLI is broken out, then it's one client. We should probably break out the other client, the UI. This is, there's a longer Google Doc that I don't think has been updated in maybe a couple of years, but it had given a fairly lengthy perspective about what all might come in context of cloud native management. And so I think it's been literally probably 2 years since this was. And so there's some things like service mesh management that the project has certainly outstripped, and now offers service mesh management, but also anything under the Kubernetes sun, which is quite a lot. Ultimately, the roadmap for post 1.0, if it isn't explicitly called out, it should be called out that it would be public clouds as well, things outside of Kubernetes. So as a matter of fact, actually, coincidentally, I guess 2 days ago at reInvent is AWS's or Amazon's annual conference, and they just announced a visual designer capability for AWS Systems Manager, for those of you that are into EC2 or into those services. If you go take a look at one of the screenshots of that visual designer, well, I feel sorry for them. It is hideously, it is exact. Anyway, I will let you, other than prejudging it like that and I'll let you go look at it if you want. Somebody can send a link, or I'll send a link in the Slack about what that is. Anyway, the point is, as we go to manage and monitor, manage those cloud environments, the cloud environments are on the long-term roadmap as well. That Kubernetes is one platform, and there are other platforms for Meshery as a tool to manage. If for anyone that's interested, please either help clean up this doc. That would be nice. Add some of your thoughts to the existing pull request out there for v.8, or make a new one, or ultimately, I think something that served us well as a common point of reference. Certainly it's typical for a project to point people to something like a roadmap.md. And so we'll absolutely want that to be updated as we collectively go through what those plans are. And but it had served us fairly well, I think, previously, that we opened it up, or one of the forums for discussion. Well, there's one of the .7 drafts. As we'd open it up for discussion, we'd put a post out here So perhaps we should get a post going for the .8 roadmap. What we had done in the past is, for those of you that are here, either maintainers or just like committed contributors, is to attempt to break down each of these functional areas, whether it's a feature, whether it's an enhancement around the way that we're doing build and release, or an up-leveling of the amount of code coverage we have or tests that we do, that we would identify a feature, like a feature champion, a feature theme champion. Usually each of these aren't individual features because it would be a whole lot. Usually it's more like a theme, that we're doing a theme around a particular, supporting a particular type of technology, or a big, something big that was done around the eventing framework that's new in .7. So anyway, let's go get one of these opened, start to suggest and confirm names around them. There are any number of architectural, like design specs, that would be either freshly written or revived and be used for .8. So there are a number of things, actually, well, there's a number of things that can be revived that just weren't, we just hadn't been able to complete. Some of them are marked here. Some of them, like the things like, anyway, there's a number of things that we didn't necessarily get to accomplish that we should carry over and see if we can complete. This particular discussion, this is more like, this isn't a review or a presentation of what we think that it might be, but it's a call for participation in helping refine that. Taking, like, the best reference to go to right now is that roadmap.md, reflecting on it, comment, like, there's you can send an email, you can open up a discussion forum thing, you can, there's a bunch of different ways to engage in the discussion of the roadmap. I encourage everybody to. It's hopefully we will be able to hit more of like a much shorter term cadence when you consider what's left between where we are now, which is right at about to start .8, and a 1.0. Well, my hope is that it's not too far away. There's it's hard for me not to talk for an hour about like what all this would be. So certainly for my part, I pledge to put some details around this and some thoughts for you all to consider, and a proposal for you all to beat up and change. But now is the time to start that planning, start thinking towards it. So we certainly want to make sure that everyone's bought in and has an understanding of what makes sense for this next near-term release. And some of you might be wondering, well, how long would that be? It's like, well, it would be nice if they were like 3-month cadences or 6 months or less. This last one was I don't know, you can go look, it was a year and something. Hopefully it's shorter. The project really isn't that far away from a 1.0. Any initial comments or thoughts? Yeah, so good. All right, so there's 2 activities to do: the release itself and planning for our next one. Some of you recognize your names on the .7 plan. I am going back to the topics here. I thought there was one other thing that I was supposed to. Oh yeah, feature champion. So and so there's some of you that it's the time has come for some nominations. There are one or more of you on the call right now that that for my part I intend to go nominate and put up for consideration by the other maintainers and all of the rest of you for whether or not you consider that they're performing that role. Someone needs to be essentially performing the role of a maintainer, and then you need to acknowledge them as formally as doing that. There's a couple of people who aren't on the call right now that I think have achieved that status or that level of responsibility. But, okay. Well, good. So I don't know if Does anyone have any thoughts? I think that leads us past Pranav, past Akshay, maybe over to Yash. All right. And good. And so I don't know if Yash, you might have stepped away. I'm not sure if he's necessarily available. Oh no, there he is. There's two Yash. Yeah.
I was thinking that Pranav was going to take up.
Oh,
but
is he?
yeah, let me share.
Pranav, we already covered your topic. Is that right?
Yeah, actually, it was covered in Abid's discussion.
All right.
Okay, then I will share the screen. Okay, so last time when we discussed about the comments and the comments history, it was not implemented, but now it is implemented and released in Meshmap. And there are a couple of new enhancements I made in the comments, and that can be released maybe soon. One of is you can right now all of your comment history will shown over here. So whatever message you are doing over here, you can filter by on based on all open and resolved. So let's say this is one of the comment which is random. If you select on this, it will highlight which comment you are selecting and which comment you will be commenting. And if you select this one, it will highlight that one. And I added one more feature is to show always a latest thread on top. So let's say Elasticsearch is the old one, and if you comment on this, you can comment either from here or maybe from here, or however you like. And if you comment from over here, and you can close this thing, close this popover, and if you open that popover again, the Elasticsearch one will be on the top because it is the latest one in which a new comment is added. So yeah, this can help a user to make sure that in which thread there is a latest comment. There are a couple of UI issues which I also solved. One is for scroll bar and disabling this button until there is any comment, something on that, something like that. So there are a couple of enhancements. There is one more thing that I also updated that the status, how it makes sure that it is resolved or not, is now added inside the config of this component definition. So yeah, these are the couple of enhancements that I made. The only enhancement is left for is the changing this name thing because it's currently implemented common for every component. So I have to make a custom one for this.
Yash, did you, so these things are resolvable and reopenable, and not that that's a word, but you can delete them and, oh no, you just deleted my comment. It was so funny too. Okay. All right, fine. It wasn't that funny. But okay, so this comment has been deleted. And how is that indicated to the user? Is it
this component actually resolved, not deleted. So
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So as a result, it will have a dark color in the background other than this because this is not resolved. Also, it is resolved. It will highlight it that marked as a resolved. I was thinking that we can also track who resolved this comment thread. We can also easily track that, but I'm not sure if that helps or not. But yeah, we can also track who resolved this thread, and we can also track when this thread newly opened. So yeah, this can be some new fancy things to explore with this comment thing. The only thing is that if that helps to differentiate more, because the color for this particular card of the resolved comment, in our design system, we have only two most darker colors. One is this one and one is this one over here. So I think this one is too much black, the design over here. So if there is any suggestion that we can use a better color behind this card.
Maybe not regarding the color, but I had a like certain improvement. Maybe for the comment that you are typing, or maybe the someone might be typing, so we could have a edit option as well for the user to edit if there is certain spelling mistake or there is certain additions, or maybe I mean this could help the user to edit in the same flow, and maybe I mean yeah.
Okay, so you are suggesting to so allowing user to edit their own comment, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank
I
you very
get
much. Yeah,
what
this can be an
I get what she's saying, because I do that all the time. And in cases where you're like what I just did by posting something and then perhaps not having full context of it, and then the person who reads it responds with having more context for it, and you wish to edit that, I think it will be very helpful. But I'm not sure if that will affect memory storage in any way. I don't know if that makes sense.
That's a good suggestion. I think if that helps our user, this can be an feature that can be considered to have in future. I will take that as a note, and I will make sure that how we can do that. And yeah. So any other review? These are some great reviews from you guys.
Yes, are we sending an email, or we are still in the process of adding that?
Yeah, actually, as I will be done today with this, I will create a PR for having an API for sending an email.
Yeah, Yash, great. Hey, a couple, I think you're tracking maybe a list of other follow-up items in terms of more like CSS stuff. And one of those things is that after the mention of the user, that there isn't a white space placed right after the username, which is makes the next, whatever you type after that kind of come. I don't think we discussed that before. And who doesn't, to Unadi's point, like who doesn't, well, I'm assuming who doesn't hate the fact you can't edit a Zoom chat? Because like all the time I'm saying, it's exposing me for the lazy typist that I am, I guess. There's so it's a good it's a worthwhile thing that Sandra had called out about like the overhead involved and adding a new feature, and what that, not just system overhead, but also well, complexity of user experience, complexity of the code underneath. Those are certainly considerations to make. There's one other thing in collaboration mode. Anyone else is welcome to be just as annoying as I am. Like while Yash is trying to present, I was in there collaborating and making comments. And one of the things, Yash, that might have, that might still be on the list, but let's make sure that it is that this is in a resolved state. And I suspect if I reload, it will be removed from the canvas, or maybe not, but hopefully not only would it be removed from the canvas if I reload, but also it would be removed from the canvas instantaneously, just like any other change that occurs. So cool. Maybe, yeah. And maybe I'm not running the latest. Maybe that's a known thing. Maybe I'm on the playground. So maybe that's not the latest stuff, but we're good. We're good. Great. There's a lot in there. If you have more comments for Yash, please follow up. The edit capability is a great mention. Some controls around notifications. Like I don't even know, Yash, that you showed off the fact that if you speak in emoji, that those are also supported. So that's nice. There's a little bit of a hiccup here in terms of space. Yeah, but that's pretty fantastic. And so anytime you mention someone like this character, yeah, boy, Boy, there's some feedback that's been outstanding for a bit, Yash. I wouldn't wait for Akshay to finish it off. But yep, good. So people will get an email. Is anyone working on that email service?
Right now, no, but yeah, everyone was having some major tasks, so I thought I will be taking that up. And after this today, I will be working on that.
Nice. All right. Very good. Who's next? We've got Sonali.
So I have working on this enhanced dashboard UI. For that one, I have added the sorting function to do every data tables in here. So, but I added for not all the columns, for some columns only, and like I have already fixed some issues in the UI and images here. Okay. Previously, it will cut off. Right now, it's fully shown. Those updates I have done. Any feedback or enhancement suggestion for this?
Yeah, the responsive, I suspect like the responsiveness of the page is probably, might be something to spend a lot of time on if you haven't just yet. I also wonder, I don't know that it's part of the, or rather I do know that we don't underline the hyperlinks necessarily. I could understand if we're trying to indicate that there's a deep link to that particular component or it filters. If you click on it, where does that take us? Okay, to the details of the thing. Yeah, we might want to indicate that differently or just maybe show the hyperlink on hover or something. We just don't follow that, have that same UX paradigm in other places. So the secondary tab, I've given this feedback on prior calls actually, but the secondary tabbed menu, is there any reason that it wouldn't be 100% the width of the top level menu? Probably not. We don't necessarily have to make people scroll if they don't want to. Now that you've moved these over to data tables, the ability to sort and to hide columns, that's going to be wonderful. To search over them and filter them as well, that's great. I see that we don't have filter just yet, but so hopefully that would happen. Yeah, the presentation of on the details page, like for any of these that you were to click on and get additional details of, well, one, Pranav, hopefully we would find these details in Visualizer really fast. So those that are working on Visualizer, you might be able to help Pranav as he's supposed to be studying for exams right now, but he's here hosting. So, but the presentation of this here, there's, well, it leaves us wanting. There's maybe more feedback to give than is anyone would want to listen to on this call, but so. And this is a work in progress, I'm sure, but yeah, this page in particular needs some love. Anybody else have feedback, comments? Anyone else find that these particular reports aren't useful? An analysis of that would be helpful. Like, so we have, if you go to the very top, there's an overview. Great. Those kind of like the internals of Meshery and how healthy it is, how capable it is, what it's loaded up and able to do, what it's connected to. All very helpful, informational, not necessarily the foremost thing that on an ongoing basis that you as a user who's operating Kubernetes-based infrastructure necessarily is concerned with. To the extent that you're using this to manage the ongoing operational aspects of your clusters. Having acknowledged that, the reason that these charts are on the overview page is because this data is persistently readily available for us to show to users who sign in. The hope is that the way that the installer for Meshery has been designed, that as soon as Meshery attempts to greedily connect to your Kubernetes clusters, get up the operator and mesh sync going as quickly as possible, such that by the time you arrive in the UI here, you might be seeing data on the rest of the menus, on the rest of the screens, but that's not guaranteed. And so rather than dropping new users onto an empty chart. We're at least showing them this. Hopefully part of the discussion for the .8 release will be customizable dashboards. Those have certainly been discussed and mocked up, and designs made, or design specs made for those in the past. So potentially some configurable widgets here could go a long way. Awesome, good. Anybody else have thoughts? Sometimes the thoughts are things like, I don't know what a model is. Thank you for showing me a segmented pie chart. It's pretty, and that's all I got out of it. And that's helpful feedback. Like, well, and then what? Can I click this? Does it take me anywhere? What is a model category? That sounds like a redundant thing. It sounds like a classification category. Oh, what? Like, so are there hyperlinks to informational things? Like, are there documentation hyperlinks, or can you flip this card over and see the tabular form of the data? Or like, what does it mean if the pie chart is showing all of one thing and very small of the next? Like, what is this telling us?
It's actually hyperlinked to registry page in Meshery.
Sonali, could you oblige? Oh, by clicking on one of the pie charts. Mm-hmm.
If you click on the title, that is connections, then it will take you. It's not obvious for you.
Well, all right, well, good. Well, we don't have to hang out on it all day, but just there's some things, some thoughts. For any of you that are on the call, it's always the case that when things are being discussed, it's an implicit solicitation of help or of collaboration. Please go chat with Sonali and see where you might be able to engage.
Like, we can also have different icon for that node storage network, because like when I was adding that, I went to that Kubernetes GitHub, like there were already some of for these icons, like storage, node, namespace, SVG icons. If we require like a different one for different tabs.
Okay, so hopefully like Senali was able to share his update. So I will quickly go over my update. So this is around like how what are connections and how Meshery manages our infrastructure. So from the all along, we had only Kubernetes as a core connection, meaning we supported auto discovery, registration, and connection of Kubernetes cluster and try to manage our cluster. But the support has been extended to include, like, with all the integrations that Meshery has, like all the almost the entire CNCF landscape. The support has been extended to those integrations. So you must have seen this meshing table. So the idea is that when you come to this table, since meshing, which is a custom controller which keeps a watch on your cluster and displays all the discovered resources. So right now, I think my internet or there is some bug. So the idea is like you will be shown a list of discovered resources, say Prometheus or Grafana, and you can just, like, the way if someone has like a working UI, they might share and I will be able to describe better.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, so like you are seeing like these many entries in here, and suppose like so idea is that you can upgrade these discovered resources into a
core Meshery connection. So there will be like a menu registration process that you need to go on, like the entire what is the server URL for a, let's say, Prometheus cluster, what are the credentials required, and Senali has like contributed in developing that registration process. So I would request like Senali, if you had your UI build ready, you can at the same time share so that everyone is like have better context. So the way you have like these actions, similar actions would be available inside the messaging table, and you can click on the register or connect. You will go through the registration process, and after like we are able to reach your connection or reach your resource, then it will be migrated to a connection, and that you can manage it actively, meaning uh, you will be able to see all the import boards or metrics or the connection specific thing. You will be able to perform it. So this is the work I was focusing on, and this is merged. This is the PR for that, and there were a couple of things like enhancing messaging discovery and updating the UI to show through the fingerprint data. And yeah, so like if anyone have questions around like how the process would be or need more clarification, you may ask. I know like it would be difficult because currently the UI is in progress, but anyhow.
Oh, okay.
So she's showing the registration model that I talked about. So you just transition to registered state, and to register connection, you will be shown an RJSF form specific to that connection. So like suppose this is a Grafana connection, so you only need to enter like the name and the expose service URL for that. And when you enter that, you proceed to next step of like entering credentials for that. And there are two ways to select a credential. Like if you have already created a credential with a layer 5 or Meshery cloud, then you can select that one, or you can create a new one by entering the new fields. The supported ones for Prometheus and Grafana is like basic auth and API token. So you can do that, and when you are done with that, you can click on verify connection, and then there will be a synthetic check performed so that the credentials and the server URL are valid or not. And based on that, the check, you will proceed to the last screen where the whatever happened, like whether we were able to reach that, or whatever the outcome of that flow, we will display it. And after a successful connection, you will be seeing a new entry inside the connections table. Yeah. So any thoughts or?
Yeah. It would be really good to get some feedback, to get some hands on this. What you guys might be able to do to facilitate some of that feedback is to crack open a discussion forum thread, or pop it out to one of the mailing lists with a bit of the explanation that you just gave. Like, I don't know that it's readily evident to everyone the purpose of registering a connection. I guess you can kind of tell that you need to enter in some credentials so that Meshery can connect to this thing. Like, okay, you got to line that up. But like, is that the only thing, or like, anyway, it's hard to lead the question without giving the answer, or like suggesting some answers. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Hmm.
I'm unsure in what context, being a newbie to the whole project, when I would be using or need to use the register. So it's difficult to ask questions because you don't understand what you don't know. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, there's a couple of examples that we should probably give really fast. So one of those examples is to try to give it really fast, maybe I will share briefly. And while I go to do this, I'll say, hey, we're like 2 minutes over time. If you need to go, please do. Don't let us hold you up. We do have a couple of people, I think, to recognize in the community. And so we're going to do that in just a moment. I'll just explain this briefly. Sandra was brave enough to ask that question really for all of us. But an example goes something like this. You're running Meshery. Conceptually, it's supposed to help you understand what the heck is going on in your infrastructure and manage it a little bit easier, give you some additional tooling that you otherwise wouldn't get out of the box from Kubernetes and ultimately from other cloud platforms. One of the things that Meshery does is, well, it rides on top of all the things that it manages. So it's a director level or executive level type piece of software, so to speak. So it takes advantage of the capabilities of the infrastructure. The infrastructure is quite intelligent, the physical infrastructure and the virtual infrastructure. Some of that virtual infrastructure, for like one of my tired go-to examples, is something like Prometheus. If Prometheus is deployed inside of the environment Kubernetes that Meshery is managing, well, it will, to Daniel's question or to Daniel's work, it will discover the fact that there is a Prometheus deployed, identify it. But you might have 5 clusters, you might have 10 Prometheuses, or you might have 1 Prometheus. It might be configured with certain alerts, or it might not be, or like there's a certain Meshery can take this process of discovering and fingerprinting and classifying and like preparing for use to integrate with something like Prometheus. It can take it so far, and in some cases, it can make fairly safe assumptions about just like integrating with it and using it. When it uses it, the way that Meshery integrates with Prometheus and uses it is like right here. If there was a connected Prometheus, you would see pretty line charts and diagrams of metrics of various infrastructure resources. That is facilitated only when there is a Prometheus deployed and when someone has connected Meshery to Prometheus. They've like, today, the way that it's done is they go over here, they say, yes, there's my Prometheus. If one hasn't been discovered, you type in the URL to it, and you can't provide credentials. What Sonali and Uzair are working toward is, well, massively blowing that up to make it much more highly configurable, but for every single type of integration that Meshery supports. It isn't all, to what Daniel had just said, like, it isn't always the case that Meshery may be able to say, oh, yeah, there's an alert manager where that's a component of Prometheus. So this is a Prometheus component, and you might want to use it. You might want to like turn on that deeper level integration between between Meshery and Prometheus. And it's in this moment when you click to register that resource and say, yes, I'd like for Mesh, like it's in that moment you'd answer a few questions. One of the questions would be, do you have a username and password? Like what credentials should be used? And then there's other generic questions like, oh, did you want to take that connection? Like you're converting this generic resource into a first-class connection that Meshery will on an ongoing basis keep track of and have the status of. Do you want that to be placed into a particular environment, made available through a particular workspace? These are Meshery constructs. Did you want to pull those metrics or these metrics? And when you do, like part of that registration wizard, it'll be asking you these questions. What metrics did you want to pull? And in what charts did you want those metrics to show up on what pages? So each of the integrations or each of the connections that Meshery is able to establish with this this myriad infrastructure is specific to, there's some generic aspects to all of it, which is some of the generic aspects are things like a connection. Meshery should be able to represent it, connect, authenticate, click to check its connectivity, do some basic level things, but then for different integrations specifically, Meshery will be able to go much deeper. depending, and it really just depends on what that infrastructure is. In the case of Prometheus, it's about retrieving metrics and displaying them. It might also be about configuring alerts. So yes, Prometheus is all about metrics. That's it. That's the project, does it super well, et cetera. But it also let you set thresholds and generate alerts. And so you can use Meshery to configure those, and on and on and on as Meshery connects with different projects. And in order for Meshery to support 200 something integrations, or however you want to measure it, like it's a lot, and do that without having an army 8 times the size of the group that's on this call to actually achieve that, to like hand code out all the specifics about how to connect to each of these integrations. These guys are trying to make it, not trying to, they're making it dynamic, such that when you pull up that registration form, what it asks you to fill in will be dynamic but specific to the connection type. And there's some of it, there's no way to make it completely dynamic, or there's no way that Meshery can't have some amount of like specific code to support the Jaeger integration or the Prometheus integration. There will be some specific things. And so the depth of that integration is something that a number of you have talked about. And we've yet to establish a classification system to sort of qualify like the tier of integration. Like, okay, Meshery has all these integrations. Okay, what does it do with Argo? Well, this much today. Okay, what does it do with Prometheus? This much today. It might be helpful to even facilitate quick conversations to say, oh yeah, that's a tier 1 connection, a tier 2, or that's a whatever you guys want to call it. And then that becomes a little more. So sounds like some .8 stuff. Sounds like some forward future-facing work and Daniel's here, which is encouraging because this lands squarely in some of the work that he's been doing. Some of the work he's been doing is enhancing mesh sync, and it's enabling what we would hope in the future to be a fair bit of auto registration, or like to the extent that Meshery can, in a delightful way to the user, like that it can delightfully integrate and not overstep its bounds. Those are controls that we need to expose to the users, though, as well, about what to connect, what it should auto connect to and what it shouldn't, what it should keep his hands off of. So. Oh my goodness, 8 minutes went by. I apologize. Vivek, did you have an item before we conclude?
Yes, I'll quickly share my screen. So hopefully it's visible to all. So discussion forum, and that is at discuss.layer5.io. It's our community forum, and where you get to familiarize with all the community members. You can have conversation about products and projects, and if there's any concepts that you want to know more about, you can just put a post on discussion forum. You can ask some questions and you can give answer to some. And there are like 2 ways in which you can do that. First is, you can navigate to discuss.layer5.io, and then you'll be able to create new topics and posts. And then through any of the Slack channels, public Slack channels, you'll be able to use this command, that is /discussPost. So it will load our nice draft that you can edit your message and then post on discussion forum. And bi-weekly on development meeting, we celebrate folks who are like actively engaging on the discussion forum. We know them as discuss champions. So we'll just in a moment see who are these 2 folks for the past 2 weeks. And yeah, they do deserve every bit of recognition that we are about to give them. All right, so I'll just go to the next page. And here they are, like, in these 3 categories, Harshadai and Jagati. So, these folks have been, actively answering questions and asking them. So I think like we are missing them on the call, but we'll definitely let them know. And this really helps, to a lot of community members who are like asking the similar questions, or like if they are in need of any answers to their question. And so like if you also would want to have be celebrated as one of the discussion champions, so all it would need you to be super active on discussion discuss forum. So yeah, that was all. And we'll on the next day the alumni meeting, we'll see who are those folks. Thank you.
Thanks for hosting, Pranav. I know we really had to twist your arm to get you away from studying for exams. So I know how difficult that was to pull you away. Anyway, does anybody have final thought? Thanks a bunch for coming. Have a wonderful Wednesday. See you all back in Slack. See you all on the roadmap discussion, I hope. So, bye. See ya.